The number of eligible black voters has reached a record 30 million in 2020. That's according to Pew Research. However, it's a demographic that saw a decrease in turnout in the last election. That dip was seen in battlegrounds like Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. States President Trump flipped by razor-thin margins in 2016. CBSN political reporter Caitlin Huey-Burns takes a look at this key Democratic voting bloc and the barriers they face as both campaigns battle to win the Midwest.
We're going to win the state of Michigan. We're going to win 4 more years in the White House.
Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. These 3 states determined the presidential race in 2016, and Democrats are on a mission to win them back.
I'm going to win Pennsylvania. I think we're going to win Michigan. I think we're going to win Wisconsin.
But some local leaders say they're approaching this region the wrong way.
Part of the Achilles heel of the Democratic campaign strategy in the Midwest, in my opinion, has been the overemphasis on independents. At some point, you have to say the folks who you want to come out for you that came out in 2008 and 2012 for Barack Obama, overwhelmingly, you have to talk to them.
Charles Williams II is pastor of King Solomon Baptist Church in Detroit.
Look, Detroit, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, 3 major cities where African Americans are, they're going to need a very serious sense of intentionality from the campaign. We're going to need something not just to vote against. We're going to have to make sure that we're clear about what we're voting for.
Trump won Michigan by fewer than 11,000 votes in 2016. One of many contributing factors, turnout among African-American voters in Wayne County, which includes Detroit, decreased by over 35,000 votes.
That group did appear to be pivotal in some of these Midwestern states. If traditionally Democratic voters had turned out in the same numbers that they had for Barack Obama, it's likely that Hillary Clinton would have won that state and Wisconsin too. So there's definitely some evidence for putting a lot of resources into mobilizing less frequent voters or low propensity voters.
A CBS News BET poll out this week finds black voters are engaged in this election, but they're concerned that their vote won't be counted properly, and a majority worry about intimidation at the polls.
What are some of the barriers that you see here in your community for potential voters?
The absentee ballots will not necessarily guarantee that everybody will get the opportunity to vote. If you live in an urban community like Detroit and you've moved from house to house, or you've moved in the last few months, there's no guarantee that that application will end up on your kitchen table. And quite frankly, if all you get in your mailbox is bills, it's less likely that you're even going to really want to pick up what's in the mailbox.
Another issue, the lack of trust in federal government.
It used to be that we could depend on the United States Department of Justice to protect our polling sites, our clerk's offices from this type of intimidation. This time, we're not so sure if the intimidation will actually be coming from the United States Department of Justice.
So when the president said in the debate that he wants people to go out and monitor the polls, you take that as a real threat?
It's absolutely a real threat.
But even with those concerns, 60% of black voters who plan to cast a ballot in person say they won't be deterred.
It's important to me with everything that's going on with the mail, and so I just wanted to make sure that I had it physically in my hand and I placed it in the machine.
One little vote might make that change.
And Caitlin joins me once again from Philadelphia. Caitlin, really fascinating piece, helps explain why we're seeing sort of this push among the surrogates for the campaigns in these certain areas. Do we know, Caitlin, why turnout among black voters decreased last election?
Well, there were a few different factors. One of them was that Barack Obama was not on the ticket. We saw that his being on the ticket really helped turn out that demographic in those key states. What was really interesting in reporting on this piece is that over the past 4 years, Democrats have been really focused on trying to win back the Midwest, and they've been really focused on trying to win back those voters who showed up and supported Trump, and a lot of voters who were traditional Democrats who may have even voted for Obama in past elections but wanted some kind of different change. And the characterizations of the Midwest became very focused on white working class voters that showed up in big numbers in 2016 for Donald Trump. And people that we've been speaking to, and you actually hear this, from people like Kamala Harris when she would be campaigning in Michigan while she was running for president, say that you can't just put everybody in the same box, that a lot of characterizations of the Midwest and Pennsylvania, the Rust Belt, leave out a certain people. And so when you look at the numbers in places like Philadelphia, where I am, in Milwaukee, in Detroit, that's what these activists are telling us. Focus on voters who may have felt left behind or left out in the last election, and focus on a positive affirmative message trying to turn them out. Also focus on some of the barriers that they may be facing. It may be that they want to vote, but some roadblocks exist in getting them actually to cast a ballot.
So that being said, Caitlin, based on the conversations that you've had, what are the primary issues motivating turnout for Black voters?
Well, there certainly is an anti-Trump sentiment, and we're seeing that all around the base of the Democratic Party. But as the Reverend told us, sometimes it's not enough to just be against Donald Trump. You have to give a positive, affirmative message for getting people to come out. He was encouraging the candidates and campaigns who want to do well among these voters to go where they are physically. This is a group, of course, that has been disproportionately affected by the pandemic, health-wise and with the economy. Job losses, huge issues here. He encouraged candidates to go and hand out masks, and just being in these communities and talking about the issues that they care about are really critical, and showing that you're there is a really important component.
Well, your piece mentions the polling showing concern among Black voters about their ballots being properly counted. What are local officials doing to address those concerns?
Encouraging people to show up in person to drop off their ballots. What was really interesting about the CBS News BET poll showed that 60% of people who say that they're going to vote in person aren't deterred. And you heard some of those voters in line that our colleague Adam Brewster talked to in Milwaukee, for example, who noted the importance of making sure that they could actually hand in their ballot to be counted, just making sure they're there to see it go through, or to vote in person to make sure it went through. And especially in these final days of the campaign, that's what we've been hearing from election officials as well, that in order to make sure your ballot counts, go and hand it in person if you can.
All right, Caitlin Huey-Burns. Caitlin, you are covering so many angles for it. We are so grateful. Thank you.